self-care is caring for others as much as you care for yourself.
I believe that it is important, or at least to me, it is important to submerge and allow myself to navigate through every side of the culture.
Or I'm going to spend time with my friends, but with no digital devices. So this creates a different set of values.
When we sing Kanu Mai Buai, we are saying that we are making a structure by singing. But this Mai is not only a verb, but also means earth. That means that we are calling the power of the Mother Earth to help us to construct a solid structure by singing.
Hi and welcome to the Porto Design Biennale. My name is André Cruz. You are listening to Voices from the Atelier, a series of 6 podcasts, each dedicated to one outer reality: truth, dignity, play, memory, dream, and language. This is the 6th and final episode of this series, a project that came to light with the intention of identifying and amplifying how designers are responding to today's multiple realities. The exploration of the 6 themes defined for each of the episodes helped me frame design as a tool that allows us to reach answers in a very practical mode, but also as an active form of thinking. Facing all the more or less intelligent or artificial possibilities that exist among us, I want to believe that design will continue its path as a process made by humans, but also for multi-species, for plants, for animals. Basically, a process we can find everywhere. In this episode, we are exploring the theme of dream, not from a Western European point of view, very influenced by Freud and his amazing studies, but looking at dream as a space for resting and acting, for utopia and dystopia, and, at large, a space for thinking. In indigenous communities, dream works as a tool to find answers to their daily life. This is also what we do in our design practice. Dream can also be a very enlightening way to engage with other people, to be connected, no matter if we are asleep or wide awake. I invited Susana Carreiras and Alastair Fuad-Luke to join me on this podcast. Susana is a designer actively present in the Peruvian jungle, and Alastair is the main curator of the Porto Design Biennale, educator, activist, and design facilitator. Hope you enjoyed this and the previous episodes. Thanks for listening. My long-distance conversation with Susana was interrupted by some technical difficulties. Understandable, since in the Peruvian jungle, the internet is by no means a priority on the scale of everyday's values. I started by listening to a brief explanation about the youth empowerment project Susana does with the NGO Alianza Arcana.
This is a youth empowerment project through ancestral art and design. And it's also a way to generate incomes to this youth group. And what we do here is learn about design skills and design processes, and also design thinking, and combine these more like modern techniques with ancestral art techniques. And we also do silkscreen printing, and we also do like research in ancestral design and those meanings.
Susana has been working for 3 years in direct contact with Kene culture. The Shipibo-Cunibo are indigenous people who live along the Ucayali River in the Amazon rainforest in Peru. This young graphic designer has been investigating and collecting symbols of the Shipibo-Cunibo people with the intention to create a visual dictionary.
The Kene Dictionary of Designs It is the reason why I'm living in the jungle right now. I was feeling attracted by these designs that are knowledge, songs, words, and feelings, and healing, embroidered and painted in fabrics, ceramics, and artifacts. And I find the methodology of investigation with indigenous peoples that it have its own rhythm, and to understand and demystify these meanings, I have to understand and know well the language. And the Shipibo-Conibo language is really poetic. For example, one word can have multiple meanings, like the word hua, that means to arrive, also means flower. And the word hu, that it's another verbal temp of arrive, also means light. That is beautiful. And when we sing Kano Mai Buai, we are saying that we are making a structure by singing. But this mai is not only a verb, but also means earth. That means that we are calling the power of the Mother Earth to help us to construct a solid structure by singing. Which to me it is amazing, like a dictionary is to explore meanings and significations, and I really have to know this culture and live and eat and travel as these people do. These people I really respect, and be able to complete this dream, I have to do this kind of dictionary symbol and get out of these mental boxes we all as Western society have, and we construct in our minds and share this gift with the world, because Shipibo-Conibo people, it's a gift, And this is not only my project, but a project in co-authoring with these masters and artists that are all the Shipibo-Conibo people and the people I work with. And cultural appropriation, it is a huge and terrible fact. And to me, it is important to be really respectful with this culture that is giving to me so much treasures and that feels like home.
Dream is a place where basically anything goes. A space where utopia can be an outer form of reality. Within the contact Alastair established with indigenous cultures, I invited him to point out the main differences we can find between Western and indigenous cultures on the relation they have with the act of dream.
Well, I think, first of all, I should point out for the conversation, I'm not an anthropologist or an ethnographer, but I have worked on a number of design projects over the years involving indigenous people. But first of all, I'd like to make a distinction, I think, in how we frame dreaming in Western society. We're so influenced, of course, by psychoanalysts and Freud and the idea of dreams and revisiting our dreams as a form of therapy and trying to interrogate a more kind of rational approach to dreaming. And then the other form of dreaming, I think, that's deeply embedded in Western culture is dreaming through fictions, science fiction or other fictions which were written. For instance, we go right back to Thomas More's Utopia, 1516, which was a kind of allegory, I think, but also a kind of geopolitical fiction intended to change things. But in terms of utopias and dreaming here in Western culture too, it's always got some kind of practical ambition attached to it, I think, to change our society or politics. Or I've always liked the book done by John Wood. He's a professor, maybe still is, emeritus professor of design at Goldsmiths College. He wrote a book in 2008 called Attainable Micro-Utopias. But again, it's framed, I hope John would agree, it's framed in this idea of changing our social and political and quotidian condition. But it's not the way, in my experience, that non-Western ethnic indigenous cultures think about dreaming. I think, of course, I'm being a bit generalist today in this conversation, possibly. But whereas the West is kind of using dreaming in some kind of tools for navigating the future or changing the future, my experience with, I'll give an example later on, but my experience working with non-Western ethnic indigenous cultures is that the dreaming is a set of tools or approaches or way of being, even an ontology, for changing what happens in the present. Because the dreaming in these cultures is, of course, it can be individual, it can be collective dreaming too, because it's about entering the worlds of spirits, the worlds of ancestors, the worlds of stories of previous generations. But most of those stories intertwine the human with other than human. And sometimes the distinction is very hard to see, okay? So a tiger can have a spirit, an ant can have a spirit, a tree can have a spirit, a mountain can have a spirit. And on this last example, I can give a personal story. When I lived in Malaysia and Indonesia in the early 90s, I went to the island of Borneo several times in the northeast, to the state of Sabah, which is one of the two states not on peninsular Malaysia. And I climbed the Mount Kinabalu, which is the tallest mountain in Southeast Asia. It's about 13,000 feet. So this would make it something like 4,000 meters, something like that. And when you climb this mountain, you take a local ethnic guide with you from the Kadazan tribe. There are 30 different ethnic groups with different languages there. In fact, in the Kadazan Dusun tribal mix, let's say, there are 13 languages just in these two tribal mix. And many people are multilinguistic. They know the tribal languages of several. Anyway, my point is that you would walk up the mountain, and somewhere up the mountain, your Kadazan guide would either sacrifice a chicken or do some symbolic equivalent of sacrificing a chicken to the spirit of the mountain. And if you didn't do this, it's quite possible that your presence on the mountain or your journey on the mountain might be, have some dangers. And so the mountain has a spirit, basically. That's the point. And all these things with spirits, again, I'm being super generalistic, and probably all the anthropologists are rolling their eyes now. But I think it's the idea that I think this utopian dreaming has a very political orientation in Western culture. It has a purpose, whereas I think the dreaming or the remembering in different states of consciousness, maybe this isn't so precisely dreaming, but the remembering and the being, because the remembering and the being are tied together, I think, in indigenous cultures. They really are about asking questions about how to navigate the present. And of course, if you do navigate in the present and you do something different, for sure it's going to change your future.
Earlier this year, Susana Carreiras came forward with the decision to retreat in isolation in the Peruvian jungle for 3 months. The curiosity that such an experience arouses is immense. How it is that going through an introspection like this helps us better understand our narratives and meaningfully connect with others.
There are a lot of ways to do a retreat, and the one I did was a retreat with master plants and ayahuasca medicine. And I passed 3 months in isolation, connecting with a plant called Chiricsanango or Mukapari in Shipibo language. And from one side, I believe that it is important, or at least to me, it is important to submerge and allow myself to navigate through every side of the culture. Not only because is with the plants that I can have access to these designs and to this knowledge, to these meanings and symbols. And also this allows me to understand it better and be more and more respectful with these people and with this culture. And plant medicine is a part of every indigenous culture. And from other side, I must admit that I was feeling really tired and without energy to give. And I do believe too that it is important to analyze and be conscious about the place from where we are giving and sharing with the people who we work with. And I was needing time to myself to heal, to see and heal some traumas and return more lighter and spiritually cleaned, to be able to share and to give from a place of abundance. And yeah, I think that slow down the clock and take time to just breathe, to just be, is to me the key to share and grow with joy, which I believe that is fundamental as we work with people and with communication, no?
Do you know what happened to me when I is in that retreat? It was February, and I had this dream when I was making a poster to Carnival, like a really beautiful poster, really colorful, with these faces, funny faces, shapes, and like a 3D poster to the city of Porto, to the parties of Carnival in Porto. And then I woke up, and the next day was like, whoa, what a beautiful poster I made last night. Wow. And then I realized that was Carnival Day. Like my conscious was so open that this collective knowledge of these days that are this party in this it's in the collective knowledge. So I was so open that I knew that was Carnival, even if I was not like thinking, oh, it's Carnival. No, it's inside of myself, and consciously I made a poster to this party, and it was a really good poster, I think.
Our modes of living have been frequently confronted with a neoliberal capitalist thinking that sees financial value in everything. It's a model where simply there's no space for dead time. With this tendency, we are losing an important aspect of our existence, which has to do with dreaming. How can we countercycle this tendency and reclaim space for dream?
Again, a really interesting and complex question. I think my first response would be that I think time is alive. I don't think it dies. We die. Other living beings die, but I don't think time itself dies. Or at least that would be my initial response to this phrase, dead time. I think we also have to remember in our human and rather anthropocentric history, we rationalize time. We rationalized time the minute we started